That takes us to now. I hate to even bring it up, but I have to bring it up. All right, here's the deal. So, Floyd Mayweather, how long ago, Brian? 2 weeks ago says, yeah, I'm not going to make a comeback. It's too hard on the body.
6 days ago.
6 days ago. Let's say a week, just to be generous. Says, nope, I'm 42. I'm just too old. This is a young man's game. And then maybe a few days later, takes to Instagram and says, I'm coming back out of retirement in 2020. That followed, by the way, or I should say was preceded by him sitting down courtside at some, I think it was Clippers and Celtics with UFC President Dana White. It should be noted that Zuffa Boxing was supposed to have an announcement in October. I know that they have made hires. Mike Coppinger of The Athletic has reported that, but there was no announcement in October. November is almost over. Floyd teasing 2020. And then lastly, Brian, I'll pitch this to you first as well. TMZ reporting, for whatever that is worth, for whatever that is worth.
Say what you want about TMZ. They get it right a lot.
They do get scoops. That's the thing about TMZ. Like, they report on, like, Whoa, Vicky and Bad Baby, but, like, they get the scoops. Okay. Saying that what Floyd is looking at is either Pacquiao rematch, okay, or just to box the ears off some UFC fighter terribly out of his depth. Yes. What do you make of all of this Floyd Mayweather news?
Because of how you laid out in the beginning, that it was literally like 48 hours after he was in LA opening up one of his new lines of fitness boxing gyms, tells Reuters what you said. I'm never coming back, but focused on the danger of the sport. Referenced the lives lost in the ring in 2019. And then a day or two later is going full throttle with this. And then because you see UFC and Dana White and others associated with UFC regramming it on IG, I think you have to believe that it's more likely at 42, would be 43 by the time he comes back, holding that 50-0 record, that it's more related to fighting an MMA fighter. And it's one of those things, Luke, that, look, Floyd's a troll. He kind of did cannibalizing, Cannibal Corpse Concert Week, on his own promotion, considering he was a co-promoter of record with Mayweather Promotions on Wilder Ortiz 2, a PBC venture, yet he's floating his name out there in a big way during Fight Week. The same tricks he used to do, right, during like Golovkin-Canelo Fight Week to bring the attention back on him. That was a little bit odd. There's certain elements to this that are just odd, but I think if you do the math, what would be the best case scenario for us? I think really Mayweather-Pacquiao too. Even if they were 43 and 41, like they will be next year, Pacquiao's going through a renaissance at 40. That win against Keith Thurman is as good as any recent win in the sport. I just don't know at 43 if Floyd would do that now. Here's experience against Conor and the ease of it, and the experience even against Nasukawa in Japan.
Yeah. And the easy money.
The one thing I don't want this to do, because look, here's the thing. We're all going to go, we don't want this, we don't want this. And then if it was Floyd Habib and it happened, of course, we'd get drawn back in because it's a spectacle. You have to see it, even though we don't want it. If it plays any part in keeping the UFC from making Habib, Tony Ferguson 5, then...
Wait, let me back up a step just so I understand you clearly. Are you suggesting that the UFC is considering making a boxing match between Habib Nurmagomedov and Floyd Mayweather?
I'm going to say that when you see all the retweeting going on from everybody involved with the UFC, and Dana wants to get involved in the sport in any way, and right now there's just no free agent fighters that aren't aligned with ESPN or Showtime or Fox or DAZN or whatever. What's the next thing you can do? Take one of his guys and match him up with Floyd and use all his promotional powers and push it. And then did you see Ali Abdelaziz, Habib's manager, float out some kind of cryptic IG post that I didn't really understand, but kind of in setting that it was supposed to, I just made up a word there, kind of basically saying that fight was supposed to happen in January in Saudi Arabia. I'm not really sure what you can pull from it, but it's
well, here's the thing. Managers in MMA often repeat half-truths, or they're just trying to sell you on something. Here's what my sense of things are. Between him sitting with Dana White and the lack of a Zuffa Boxing announcement, my hunch is that they're trying to get a big splash going. And what better way to get a big splash going if most of the best fighters are already signed or belonging to PBC or to Bob Arum at Top Rank or they're at DAZN? Who's available and has a huge name that's known, by the way, to UFC audiences? It is Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather is easily the most popular boxer in MMA, right? For better or for worse, that is his role. He is the king of the trolls, yes, but he's also the king of visibility. What I took away from the McGregor fight, and I know you have at least suggested on the show that your sources tell you that he didn't hardly train for that fight. Even with that, I talked to Paulie Malignaggi about that fight when it first ended, and Paulie is known as a clear and unequivocal Floyd Mayweather supporter. And even he agreed with me that it was time to really hang it up. Now, the Nasukawa exhibition thing notwithstanding, Floyd just didn't look great in that fight beyond the lack of the work in the first 3 rounds. He just didn't have his legs under him. He didn't look physically at 42 or 41 at that time, whatever he was. He just didn't look to be, while in good physical condition for the age, he didn't look to be elite boxing physicality needed to compete against the top junior and then regular welterweights at that moment. Pacquiao kind of does, which is miraculous, but he does. So here's what I'm going to say. I don't know who he's going to fight. I wouldn't rule out the possibility of him fighting Pacquiao, assuming that that fight was aberrant and not an indication of where he has arrived as an aging talent. But if that McGregor fight is actually where Floyd is now, yeah, he can fight UFC fighters until he's blue in the face. He's going to knock them all out. Like, they don't have a shot against him, even as
especially Khabib. Good God.
Yeah, even as a declined property in terms of his physical abilities, which, again, wasn't just my interpretation. Paulie agreed. So I would say that seems most likely. Plus, what a launch for Zuffa Boxing. What a great way to get off the ground with somebody you can sign, recognizable to your audience. We know that UFC fighter versus Floyd Mayweather thing works certainly for Floyd, and UFC made a ton of money. And we mentioned it last time. What was the big takeaway from Mayweather-McGregor in terms of losses? Conor could write it off saying, hey, nothing ventured, nothing gained. It's not even my regular sport. And they all made a bunch of money. You could probably, although it'd be a little bit harder, you might be able to do that again. Now, I wonder if Khabib goes in there and just gets absolutely annihilated, if they would be as forgiving as they were for Conor. One doesn't really know, but there is at least precedent to assume that he could.
But it goes back to my point. When someone's doing drugs in our life, we always have that comment of, hey, do you. Just don't, as long as you're not hurting anybody else. If this idea goes forward and Floyd Khabib has some life to it, you are hurting things. You're hurting UFC fans from the idea of, you're hurting Tony Ferguson. That's a fight. I mean, this is the historically deep division.
But didn't Khabib say in Uzbekistan for this event that he was out there for, I think it's called guerrilla fighting, if I'm not mistaken, that they were going to do an April show in Brooklyn?
If that's the case, then I would amend my take right there. If we can get Tony Khabib 5 in April in Brooklyn, and then they can schedule some type of showcase afterwards, that's fine. I just don't think we're getting Maypac 2, even though I think if Floyd was going to come back against an active fighter, it would be the best fight. But Floyd is almost too smart to take that fight right now.
Floyd doesn't take big risks, ever.
Good God, I can't believe Manny Pacquiao went out there and did that to Keith Thurman.
Right.
And if you're Floyd and you've been inactive, it just doesn't seem like a smart idea. At the same time, Luke, even if you're like the biggest Floyd hater and critic, could you get excited about him continuing this lopsided boxer versus MMA thing? I mean, I feel like it's tiresome already. I feel like the Nasukawa fight against a 20-year-old guy 4 weight divisions smaller than you was kind of shameless. And I'm not saying ex-boxers haven't done this in the past. Ali's went on world tours and done pseudo wrestling and MMA matches, but shouldn't he be better than that?
Right. Well, here's the deal. What would sell more? Being dead serious. Khabib, and I'm going to make it up because it may not be Khabib. It could be somebody else. But let's say it's Khabib. Khabib versus Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match promoted by all the relevant entities, or Maypac 2. Right? Here's one thing you can say. Mayweather-McGregor was exciting. Mayweather versus Pacquiao, while a legitimate boxing contest, not overly exciting. Right? You can look back on that. Oh, do we really want to see Maypac 2? Or do we want to see something crazy again? I would humbly submit to you, either would likely be big. Maybe Maypac 2 is even bigger, but the fact that they're even relevant and close to one another, and one is a significantly less difficult of a challenge, it makes Mayweather's calculations a little bit easier to follow.
The wild card in this, though, may be Saudi Arabia, which is throwing, as a country, so much money at WWE. At Joshua Ruiz, too, reports that AJ might be making $75 million as a guaranteed flat rate. If you're Floyd and you have those conversations with them and you can get a couple $100 million, yeah, you'll probably fight anybody.
Oh, and lastly, I think there was an Entertainment Tonight headline. I'm not making this up. Logan Paul, who just is, I mean, what a skin tag this creature is. He said he wanted to box Floyd Mayweather, and they put up a poll on their site about it. Should Logan Paul box Floyd Mayweather? I hope he does.
All right, if I could get off of regular fight journalist, boxing guy at my core, and then get into gas station food eating, Brian Campbell, and go within this carnival circus realm of Floyd fighting 20-year-old featherweight kickboxers, there's one thing to fight a guy smaller than you who has no chance. and Logan Paul has no chance under any circumstances. But the fact that he's a cruiserweight and Floyd at welterweight, if they ever made that kind of carnival match, there's an entertaining side to that.
Please go die in a fire. Okay.
And I don't want it. I don't want that for Floyd's legacy. I'm just saying that there's a little bit of interest in there. A little guy against a big guy.
Please die in a fire.